All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Polzin with 905 Sports. Going to be getting into the Week 14 cash plays, and then later this afternoon, going to be coming out with the lineup builder video for you guys as well. So if you enjoy the coverage today, make sure to give a like and subscribe. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before the new year. All right, let's get into it. So looking at it just real quickly, I did want to show you guys the most chalky build that the lineup optimizers were spitting out, just so we can get a feel for which players people are going to be on. It's looking like Jared Goff, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, which is interesting, and then CMC. It was pulling in like Jackson and Watkins. I don't really agree with that, but obviously it was really trying to optimize by the most owned players, and because of that, it was tossing in some random value. Pratt Firemouth, pretty chalky. CMC, pretty chalky. St. Brown, pretty chalky. Okay, so we kind of get it. Like, you could make a decent chalky build, but at the same time, not too crazy, like projection-wise, especially compared to last week where it seemed like the chalkier players were much higher projected. And that's kind of the theme of this slate, is that there's no real standout plays. There's a bunch of quality plays, but there's no like lock and load plays, especially considering price point. So like the last really 3 weeks, we have seen DraftKings really get better at pricing. Okay. Previous weeks, they were giving us a bunch of free squares, whereas now that's not the case. Okay. So the lineup process has been more kind of like matchup based almost, rather than just like, all right, this guy's way too cheap still, keep firing at him, kind of Tyreek Hill the whole year. So definitely still interesting in that sense, but going to be going through the lineup process for DraftKings and FanDuel, starting out with DraftKings. So at the quarterback position, I've kind of settled on either still going with Geno Smith. I think he is a player that gives us a nice safe floor. Obviously 5 straight games of over 19 DK points. You look at his matchup with the Carolina Panthers, a matchup that opposing QBs average at least 19 DK points against. So that would say to me that, yeah, he should be able to get to around 19 DK points. Obviously with a favorable matchup or in between matchup, 20 DK points is kind of expected, I would say. He is the highest priced quarterback that I also think is the safest. I didn't say that right. He is the lowest priced quarterback that I think has almost the same amount of upside. Like lowest priced quarterback that should get 20 DK points is what I'm trying to say there. From there, Kirk Cousins you could go with. I was looking at more and more. Doesn't look like a cash play. Okay, sure. Can he get to 20 DK points? He certainly can. But even the last time he played Detroit, he had 41 passing attempts, only 18.3 DK points. So that's a worry for me. I've kind of settled on Jared Goff. Yes, I don't love it, and he could certainly be a dud. But most of his good games this year have come against easy defenses. Okay, Washington, Minnesota, Seattle, difficult matchups. New England, Dallas. Okay, Miami did well against. Green Bay struggled. Chicago, I forget, was that before or after? That was after the trade. Probably should have done better there. Buffalo played well at. They're kind of the mediocre matchup. And then Jacksonville. So that would suggest that he should at least be able to have a good game. Okay, but just how much? Are we going to get 18 DK points out of him? Sure, we would take that. You could play him. I still have been going with Tyler Huntley, and he's very low owned. It's strange. You get a running quarterback in a plus matchup. He threw the ball 32 times last game as well. Like, that's all appealing to me. I think we are going to get a strong chance of getting 15 DK points out of him. I think he is the better play compared to Jared Goff. I just wish he was cheaper so we could be gaining more on the field, because a lot of people are going to default to Jared Goff, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I just think Tyler Huntley both gives us, I don't want to say more safety, but he does give us more upside, and I just wish we could capture that at a cheaper price point. So that's the difficult part. And guys, on FanDuel, it's going to be more of the same, and that's my biggest worry. Now, sure, you could potentially punt to Ryan Tannehill on FanDuel, who's $300 cheaper there. You look at his last few matchups, guys, he has not really had a good matchup in a while. Okay, we can see just based off of the FanDuel defensive rank. That's why he's been struggling. You look at the 2 games in which he did have good matchups, and not even New York Giants. 1 game he's had a good matchup this season, 1 for 19. Okay, obviously gets a great matchup this week. Should be able to go for 15 plus. So someone you could look at on FanDuel as well. Now getting into running back, I still think it's going to be a simple approach thus far this week. Okay, Dalvin Cook is the running back that you want to play going against Detroit. That should be a good matchup. If he can't get it done in the rushing game, he's going to be able to get it done in the passing game. Didn't have any targets last time against Detroit. And was 4 yards shy of the 100-yard bonus, but still went for 14.6 DK points. So that's highly appealing to me. He is the one lowest priced running back that I think could have the highest DK point game. And he has been playing about 85 to 75% of the snaps, which is highly appealing. So yes, Dalvin Cook I will be looking at. I still think he's going to be a strong price point play. And then Christian McCaffrey, I do think we kind of need to eat the chalk. Tampa Bay's defense has not been as good against the run lately. And I think he's just going to be heavily involved in the passing game. I do think we're going to see Brock Purdy getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Okay. And if that's going to happen, then CMC is going to have a bunch of check down targets once again. He was on the field for over 80% of the snaps as well. I just think that's kind of chalk we need to eat, although both those running backs on paper have a tough matchup, okay? And I guess that's the tough part, okay? I don't really see the need to play Derrick Henry too much. Joe Mixon obviously gets a great matchup, but if we're being completely honest, Samaje Perine this whole season has looked better than Joe Mixon, minus one good game that Joe Mixon has had. If we take away that one good game Joe Mixon had, Perine has definitely outplayed him. So that's difficult for me, okay? Then we get Tony Pollard and Zeke in great matchups. Okay, Zeke is a lot cheaper than Tony Pollard and could easily have a great game. I mean, he has been spectacular over the past month. So he is someone that's, it's tough not to play as well. But right now, as it sits, based off of the information that we have received thus far, it does seem like Travis Homer is going to be the RB1 for the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker is listed as a game time decision. Okay, so obviously if Kenneth Walker plays and you're not playing Homer, but if he does play or if he sits, then Travis Homer would be a decent play, would be involved in the passing game, is their passing down back, and second most talented running back on their roster as well. So at $5K, that's a very cheap price point in a plus matchup, a matchup that you want to target. Travis Homer would make a lot of sense. And hey, it's nice to see that he's coming off of his best game. And then you could almost play Latavius Murray, but his lowest snap counts came last week in a good-ish matchup. With Mike Boone back, I think that's why. So he is tough. He's a tough play. So then we get into receiver. For me, I do love all these players priced up here, guys. Obviously, they're all studs. I have been finding myself going with Chris Godwin to start out with 6.7, going against San Fran. We know he's going to get a lot of short, easy passes. Still a little bit too cheap considering his consistency. Only one game under 10 DK points thus far this season. So we're basically locking in 10 DK points with the upside to go for 30 plus DK points. 6.7 cheap price point for a guy that doesn't leave the field as well. I just like Chris Godwin a lot. It's tough not to play him. And then from there, Garrett Wilson at 5.9. Talk about another guy that's just been getting a lot of targets, been playing extremely well. 4 out of his last 5 games have been over 17.9 DK points. And that 17.9 DK points came against Buffalo, in which he had 9 targets, 92 receiving yards. The difference is the improved quarterback play lately. And he's also getting on the field a little bit more, about 90% of the snaps. So Garrett Wilson at 5.9 is going to be a tough play to pass up on, just given the price point. Should be a very strong price point play. And then for me, guys, right now, I have kind of been finding myself just going with Philip Dorsett. It sounds weird, but value price point wise, it makes a lot of sense. He should be the safer of the two options. With Brandon Cooks out, okay, and with Nico Collins out, Nico Collins got 10 targets last week. Now, the quality of targets are rough, but Philip Dorsett played the most snaps last week for the receivers that are going to be active, and then it was Chris Moore. So I do like both of them. I'm just defaulting to the one receiver that's going to be on the field more, the receiver that's more of a possession receiver, and the receiver that's is pretty talented and he's cheaper. So I don't mind that route. And then that kind of opens up a lot. If we can get 10 DK points out of Philip Dorsett, that is something that's very appealing to me. Now, if you want to go more of a fair and balanced approach, I don't dislike that. I'm not going to discourage that. I do think you could play someone like Westbrook in cash, cheap price point for him. Elijah Moore was on the field a little bit more last week as well. Maybe someone that you could potentially look at as well. And then DJ Chark, I don't mind in cash. He is still at a cheap price point as well. Going to be playing about 80% of the snaps. Gets a great matchup. Obviously, if you like Jared Goff, you like all the lines, then you still like DJ Chark, the receiver number 2 in that offense. So from there, we obviously can't afford to pay up for Travis Kelce. Or really TJ Hawkinson. I guess you could fit TJ Hawkinson in there. I do think TJ Hawkinson is still going to be a strong, safe cash play. If you look at his snap count, it's going to be between 80 or 100% of the snaps for the Vikings. Obviously gets a little bit of a revenge game as well, going against Detroit, who traded him. So I wouldn't be shocking to see him have a great game. I certainly do want to find ways to put him into my builds. I've already mentioned this a bunch. George Kittle is going to be a strong GPP play. I'm not sure he's a strong cash play, although he's on a field that a ton. You're not going to get a 0 out of George Kittle, and you have the upside to get 20 DK points from him either way. It is a strong play. Pat Freiermuth going to be a strong cash play as well. I'm perfectly fine with him. We are targeting tight ends that are going to be on the field a lot and are not going to give us zeros. Okay, that's my strategy. And for me, it's going to be tough just not to play one of these two though. Instead, where they are a little bit cheaper and also on the field a ton. I'll start with Daniel Bellinger. Going to be on the field about 90% of the time. The last 2 times he's played a full game, which was week 13 and week 6, we saw him get 14.8 DK points and 7.4 DK points. So basically playing all the snaps. Okay, we can probably lock in 4 targets for let's say 4 DK points. We're not going to get a 0 I like that. But you also look at Greg Dulcich, who I think is going to be Russell Wilson's top passing target in this game. Obviously, that's a game in which could be, I don't want to say higher scoring because the Denver's offense has been terrible, but it should be a more pass-happy game for the Denver Broncos. So that is why I like someone like Greg Dulcich, going to be ending up on him in cash. And then from there, we have too much left over for the defensive plays. And lately this season, some defenses that were a little bit chalkier have been going off. I still think the smart move is to go ahead and pay down at defense. Okay. Jets D against Buffalo, they were minimum price and they went for 10 DK points. That helped out a lot that week. Obviously, against Minnesota last week, 2 DK points. Okay. Obviously, 2 great offenses. That's what you like. And they've been a stellar defense this whole year, averaging 8 DK points per game. I certainly think they're going to be a strong play once again. So they have been the defense I've been defaulting to. Could you go with someone like Carolina? Potentially. You could. There is a slight risk that they could go negative. They've done that once this season, but can they put up 1 DK point? Sure. And obviously, if you're doing this, then you don't have to play Philip Dorsett. You can afford to pay up for a better receiver play. That could be someone like Deontay Johnson, who currently questionable, but obviously going to be on the field a ton. 90% of the snaps, going to get around 7 targets, if not more than that. I think we are going to be locking in at least 10 DK points, but the difference between Deontay Johnson and someone like Philip Dorsett might not be that great, and that could be the worry. Let's say you agree with that. All right, I agree with that. That's a logical approach. Dorsett could easily get 10 like soft DK points. Then you could potentially just try to pay up for, Patrick Mahomes should be a safe quarterback play, and then you're going punting at defense once again, and then you're going like this. Like Patrick Mahomes, probably around 20 DK points. Dalvin Cook, hopefully at least 15. CMC, at least 20. And that's the problem with this week. All the studs that we're playing up for are not in like locking those spots. And that's the worry. And that's kind of why I'm going more of with a safe approach, And so let's go ahead and do FanDuel. So I will say on FanDuel, I don't hate someone like Zeke, although he is priced up, and that's definitely a worry. Like the appeal with Travis Homer on DraftKings as well is going to be the fact that he is going to catch some passes if he's the RB1. I still think you kind of have to play him given the price point, but it's not as much of a lock and load there. We'll say Foreman's at a cheap price point as well. He's a touchdown dependent play and a game script dependent play. Obviously not someone you are particularly excited to play in cash, but that is a route in which you could go. Tony Pollard definitely has some upside here this week, playing about 50% of the snaps. That's going to be the worry, and it's a big worry. But he gets great matchup going against Houston. I might just default to playing him on FanDuel, just given the price point, like the lowest of the strong plays. And then on FanDuel, like who do you want to play after that? Maybe CMC, maybe Dalvin Cook, maybe Derrick Henry. Obviously, the appeal of CMC on DraftKings is the PPR. Like he could easily get 4 more points on DraftKings than on FanDuel. I think I will play him still just a little bit cheaper than Cook and Henry, and we're good with that. I will say I still think I'll be trying to target Dorsett on FanDuel. Okay. Still, just a cheap price point. And then that'll allow us to pay up for studs. Still like Chris Godwin. Christian Kirk, I like on FanDuel a little bit more. On FanDuel, we're kind of just being forced into playing Daniel Bellinger because he's the lowest priced tight end play that we can go with. Defensively, I like to punt, as always. I guess you could go Pittsburgh D. I don't love that. It's okay. Obviously, I like Tyler Huntley. Then quarterback, once again, we can still pay up for whichever quarterback we want to be on, and then we can improve the lineup from wherever we see fit. So for this lineup, we'll give you the example of Jared Goff at the quarterback, although I think going Mahomes kind of is the safest approach. And then maybe instead of playing Dorsett, you could go with someone like Garrett Wilson. It's a fine approach there as well. All right, guys, that's all I have for you guys for this Cash Plays video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Give a like and subscribe. That helps me be able to put up more content for you guys. All right, let's have a good week, and as always, let's keep cashing.